Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going over my preferred way to get a nice perfect mix between your kick drum and your 808s in a track. Now this is really important to learn because 808s and kicks typically occupy the same regions of the frequency spectrum, meaning if you have them over top each other they're going to conflict. Obviously the solution to this is sidechain, but I'm going to show you some techniques I use to get the perfect sidechain when doing this. So to start us off here and explain this, I do have this very short 808 loop I just put in MIDI here. It sounds like this. Very basic and short, but this is enough to demonstrate the tech that we're going to be doing here. So first things first, obviously we need drums if we're going to do this. Now me finding the right drums isn't important to the tutorial of the video, of course, so I'm just going to skip to when we do have those. Alright, here we go, we just got our drums together. They are not sidechained currently, so this is not going to be perfect yet, but I'm just going to play what it sounds like now so you know. Okay, so we're ready to do some production here and get this sounding good. Now the very first step is to identify your kick pattern. You see here I do have this layer, and it's just doing a rhythm like this. Simple. So you'll notice above my kick, it's actually my first layer in this entire track. This one, kick SC, of course standing for kick sidechain. So this is just a little ghost hit. It doesn't actually make sound because on my mixer you see it's this first one, and it's completely unlinked from the master. That's literally just a shortened kick, as short as it could be, that doesn't make sound, that goes over, as I say, every single kick. So if you want to set that up for yourself, just put down another instance of your kick, and on the drop-down menu next to the name of it, right here on the very left, it won't show on the video because it's just a different system menu, but you just click on that and there's a button called Make Unique. That's all you need to do. So from here, take that, and as I say, shorten it, make it as short as could possibly be, and then what you do is you put that on a different mixer channel to your actual kick. So for example, in this track it's just going to 1, whereas my actual kick is going to be here on 4, and I'll label that just so it's easier to understand as a viewer. So here, this very tiny hit is on 1, and normally by default it'll look like this, because this thing is tied to the master. You just click the little arrow up here to undo that. And now you have a instance of this sound that's completely silent, that as I say, you just put wherever your kick drum is going to be. Now obviously I already have that set up, so I'm going to get rid of the duplicate, because we don't want that happening twice. But what that's doing, as I say, is setting up a ghost hit for a sidechain trigger, because we will be able to use a release knob, for example, to get ultimate control by doing this method. This is how I go about sidechaining. But I do want to point out right now, this method, though it is involving sidechain, that's not all there is. We're actually going to be using a really nice visual tool to go ahead and see your sidechain to ensure that your values are correct and you get these elements to blend with one another. I'm using one called Oscillus Megascope. It is unfortunately not free, but I think this plugin is incredibly worth the price. If you don't want to spend money though, there are free oscilloscopes. They won't look identical to this, but I mean they are oscilloscopes, so it's going to be the same general thing. This is the one I like to use, and you can see I just throw this right on the end of my master, and we can see our track. Now there's something really interesting that we could see here if we zoom in a bit as well. Right now, because we're not sidechaining, you see our kick and our 808 are playing at the same time, and you can actually see them clashing here. Like, this doesn't look like the kick would on its own, and I could demonstrate what that will look like on its own, like so. That's the kick normal, clean. You know, we got rounded edges, nothing's really distorting, and same if we take a look at our 808. So the problem is, when you're overlaying a kick with an 808, you know, they're both competing in the subregion, and because this is mixed really loud and close to 0, they're going to clip and go over, and it's going to be a problem for your mix. So with that out of the way explanation-wise, here's how we go about fixing that. So remember the instance before that we set up a kick sidechain layer? This is now going to be how we sidechain to the 808. So I have my 808 channel here on 3. What I'm going to do is right-click on this arrow on the bottom of it while I have my kick sidechain trigger selected. And again, you can't see this on the video, but there is a menu that pops up, and you're going to choose sidechain to this track. So now, on our 808 channel, we could set up a sidechain. I've made a video before talking about how I go about sidechaining. My absolute favorite way is with a paid plugin called FabFilter Pro MB, which is a multi-band compressor. But if you don't have that, and again, you want to do it free with the stuff built into FL, you could actually go ahead and open up Fruity Limiter. I'll quickly show you how I'd go about setting that up before I go ahead and switch to the plugin I want to use for this. You simply select the compression tab, and here there's an option called sidechain. Right click, and you're going to be able to choose your kick sidechain. It helps if you label it so you know what exactly you're selecting. And then here I like to lower my threshold all the way and do a bit of adjustment to knee and ratio. This is going to be to taste on the track itself. And then control the sidechain release with the release knob. So if I over exaggerate it, see how long it takes that to come in. You just want to tighten it up like this. So this is actually why we have the oscilloscope open, because we're going to be able to look at it while we adjust that release, and we could get it to where the kick ends and, the 808 comes in with basically no sub dropout, to keeping the bass in for as much time as you can. That's really good, and you'll be able to see like there's not going to be the visual distortion. So it helps if you actually just mute everything else, only listen to your 808 and your kick, and we're going to adjust that to taste. You see, there we have dropout, so we want to reduce that. We're getting there now, we could go a little more. That's pretty good, and it doesn't drop out, it doesn't affect our kick anymore. And again, that's the free way if you don't have Pro MB. I'm going to show you why I use that, but feel free to skip ahead if you're content with that first solution. The way you set it up in here is you just click on the gear, go to here, and then processing, and there's stereo sidechain. This is the same thing as that sidechain menu from before. Just tie it to your sidechain trigger. The reason I use Pro MB is because you can do this multi-band, meaning like I could sidechain the lows, say like everything below 150 Hertz, at completely different values than the mids and the highs. You'll find that often you'll want your sub to be really tight, but you can go for some like stylistic sidechain on the mids and highs, maybe like get that pumping effect intentionally, without actually having a long bass dropout. So attack to 0 so it happens right away, and I like to turn range and threshold all the way down so we're getting full. And then same thing, we just adjust our release while we're looking at the megascope. I have a second monitor and I love to just throw this megascope on it, so that way it's not taking up screen space while I'm working here and I can just turn to the side and see it. But if you don't, you can just keep that open. We're going to take a look at that while we get these values correct. Something like that. Again, you see, we're not getting the kick looking all weird because things are clashing. And now we can make a new band for, like, say, mids and highs, and change the values entirely if we wanted. Like, we could crank the release up quite a bit. I think this one kind of wants to maybe almost match. Something like that. And now you see, our kick and our 808 are in the same track, taking up the same region of space, but they're friends now, they work, and there's not that annoying clashing. That's really all there is to it. It's very simple. Basically, my number one takeaway from this is just get a oscilloscope and get a nice visual for your sidechain, so that way you can very clearly see if there's audible distortion, because a lot of times you might not have, say, good enough speakers or headphones that could very accurately output something that low. This is especially helpful in that case if you don't necessarily have the proper equipment to hear stuff that low. You could still ensure that your track is going to sound good in that region. And this is great as well for, say, you have stuff being played out in clubs and stuff. It's going to sound so much better. This is one of the most important production techniques, and it's that easy. It just takes a couple extra seconds when you're sidechaining. That's how I go about it. I hope this has helped you out. If it did, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe for more future tips. Also, if you have any tips in the comments, feel free to leave them when it comes to mixing 808s, things like that. I'd love to hear what you have to say. But that wraps us up. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.